and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Angie and I'm a chemist who loves makeup. And today we're going to be talking about the ingredients that I look for in an eyeshadow primer. What I try to get out of my eyeshadow primer is I want it to help my eyeshadow last longer. I don't want it to fade much or crease throughout the day. I don't look for heavy coverage. Typically what's in a normal eyeshadow primer is enough for my eyelids, but if you do need a little bit more coverage, a concealer is always a good option. But if I was going to use a concealer, I would also look for a similar type of ingredients to get the same kind of effect. And if you go through this list and you realize the eyeshadow primer you love doesn't follow what I look for, but you still love it, continue to use it. That doesn't mean it's bad, but if you're trying to look for a better eyeshadow primer, this might be a good place to start. One thing I try to avoid in eyeshadow primers is water being the base of the formula, meaning it's within the first few ingredients. This would mean that this is the solvent, this is what everything dissolves into. So for one thing, water doesn't evaporate as readily as some other things we'll talk about. If the ingredients in your eyeshadow primer dissolve into water, that means if you have any sort of sweat throughout the day, any water, any moisture is gonna redissolve those ingredients in your eyeshadow primer, which will not help your makeup last longer. This is why sometimes I don't use concealers, because if they are water-based, sometimes they will crease throughout the day. So some of the specific base ingredients, solvents that I look for are isododecane. Isododecane is a volatile solvent, meaning at room temperature it's going to evaporate really fast. So when you put it on your eyelid, it goes on kind of liquidy and then that evaporates off immediately, and that's going to be one of the things that helps avoid creasing. Another ingredient that does this is cyclopentasiloxane, and that one is a volatile silicone. So if these are the base of the ingredient, that means this is what your other ingredients are gonna dissolve into. Not only will the formula dry faster, then it will be more likely to last longer because those ingredients that dissolve into those aren't water soluble. So I try to avoid having water high up on the list. So like I said, cyclopentasiloxane is also a silicone. Silicones and formulas are gonna help the spreadability, meaning it's gonna help it spread out evenly. So if you don't have something like cyclopentasiloxane, you're gonna want some kind of silicone to ensure that you can get even coverage of the primer on your eyelid. Another one, the one that you'll probably find in them, is dimethicone. And because if you don't have that, you're not gonna get as even coverage, and it's gonna be a real problem when you do put on eyeshadow, because throughout the day, certain areas may wear differently than others. And if you've learned something from this video so far, if you like this type of video, don't forget to click the subscribe button so that way you won't miss any new uploads. You're also gonna want something like talc or mica pretty high up on the list. Sometimes mica will be listed in the may contain area, so we don't know how much is at that point, but that means it can be incorporated at different levels into the formula. These are really good at absorbing oil, and that's a part of people's problem sometimes, is their eyelids will get really oily. So this will help prevent the oil from taking over your eyelid. This will help keep the oil at bay on your eyelids at least, so that way your eyeshadow will last longer and not crease. And they're also going to provide some opacity to your primer, meaning it'll help with that discoloration factor. For me, I know my lids get extra oily, so even when I do use a primer, I do usually still set it with some kind of powder to make sure that I don't have that problem of having really oily eyelids. And now we'll talk about ingredients that you do commonly see in eye primer formulas specifically. The first one is trimethylsiloxysilicate. This is an emollient, so it's gonna impart a soft feeling to the skin. And it also works as a slight skin adhesive, so this is gonna help the eyeshadow primer adhere to your eye and keep those shadows on your eyelid as long as possible. Another ingredient is disteratonium hectorite. And this is a type of clay, and this acts as a suspending agent, so things in the formula don't settle, particularly pigments. Clays are also absorbing oil, such as kaolin. This will also help keep your eyelids from getting oily. Ingredients like trihydroxystearin is also good because this is gonna help prevent water loss, as it forms somewhat of a barrier on the eyelid. This will also help keep your eyeshadow lasting longer while also preventing your eyelids from drying out. Waxes such as synthetic beeswax are commonly used as well. This is going to help prevent separation of the formula, as well as adding to that film formation of the primer to keep your eyeshadow lasting longer. Kind of to summarize what I look for in a primer, first of all, I try to make sure water is not the base of the formula, not very high up in the list, to ensure long wear and prevent creasing. 2, I like to see some sort of silicone to help with the spreadability and get even coverage of the primer formula. And number 3, to help opacify the formula to create a even base layer and to help absorb oil. I will link some products down below that do meet the description. These are third-party affiliate links, so I do not get paid directly by the brands. If you use the links and purchase through Ulta or Sephora, I do get a monetary kickback from this. If you do choose to use those, thank you in advance. And if you like this kind of video, don't forget to click the like button, and please let me know what other types of products you would like to see me talk about. And do not forget to hit the subscribe button so you will not miss any of my new uploads. With that, I will see you in my next video. Bye!